Hey, man.
Awesome, Mark.
How's it going? How did you see you? You're right.
I wanted you to feel at home, so I got you a special shirt that you can wear. I'm just got to cut the sleeves off later for you, so. Gratefully came to do this today, Mark. I get to show off Philadelphia, Nacho headquarters. I like the movies that start at the end and then go back. So instead of starting with where you went to junior high, tell us about your day today. I mean, where you came from, the flight you took, how you got here.
Yeah, so originally I planned to be here yesterday all day for a nice kind of sightseeing day and hang out with you guys just a little bit, maybe dinner on Wednesday night. But the football schedule came out a little bit late after you and I had already made our plans. So we pivoted.
Yeah, I like that.
And I was in Phoenix for a football game until about 9:30 last night, and then hopped on a red eye so I wouldn't miss all the festivities today. So I just got off the plane about 2.5 hours ago, got about 3 hours of sleep on the plane, and here we are.
And you sent me some videos of your son. How many positions does he play on that football?
He plays a lot. He never leaves the field. He's a wide receiver, cornerback, kicker, kick returner, punt returner.
And you could liken that to dentistry. Sometimes you're doing the drilling, you're refereeing fights in the back, right?
Yes, yeah.
You have to do things, so it's very similar. He's getting ready to that. So
utility player, you would call it.
So tell us a little about. So today we have an awesome day in Philly. We go lecture tonight. What are you going to talk about tonight to the Nacho audience and your Dental Success Network audience?
Yeah, it's funny because I was putting the presentation together, and a fair number of people have heard me speak before from this audience, maybe a third. So I wanted to make it fresh content, but there's so many universal themes that keep on popping up when I'm talking to entrepreneurs and dentists, especially lately. People have a tendency to kind of get stuck in the minutia and forget the big picture of why they're doing something. You know, I have probably a half dozen really close friends that are expanding right now, going from 6 operatories to 16 or 18 operatories, or going from 3 practices to 7 practices. And, you know, when they're in the middle of this storm, a lot of times I'm like, well, why are you doing this in the first place? What's the end goal here? Like, what do you want this to look like in 3 or 5 years? And people are often scratching their heads and say, you know, I forgot to ask myself that question. I've just kind of been following my peers and just pushing as hard as I could.
Just talk about it. You can get stuck dissecting the details, right?
For sure.
Well, I appreciate all that you do, Mark. I'm super excited for this day.
Of course.
We're going to have a great day with the lecture, the mastermind. We're going to move on to your next favorite place. I know if I came to Arizona, you would bring me to get nachos. So I want to bring you to what you like, the gym next. So that's where we're going to go next.
I live in the gym.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate your hospitality.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Mark, you talk about the 4 futures. Remind me what those 4 things are.
Mind, meaning, muscle, and money. So the mind quadrant is about how we handle stress, our internal self-talk, the narrative that's running constantly in our brains. Meaning is about, our personal relationships. It's a lot about our legacy and our purpose in the world. Muscle, obviously, is our fitness, our vibrancy, how well we're feeding and taking care of our human vessel. And then we all know about money. And purposely that's the last quadrant, because unless you ace the other ones, then money quadrant doesn't mean anything.
Every time I hear you talk about it, reinforces good ideas. I tell my team, I don't repeat myself, I reinforce good ideas. My version of that, and we're here at one of your favorite places, the gym, right?
It's a nice gym,
right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I have a trainer come here. We have a basketball court here to remind me. I have the most awesome parents, Mark, but they lied to me because they said no matter what if you put your mind to it, you'll yank. I wanted to play professional basketball in the NBA, but when you grow to this size and have this speed, you got to get new dreams, backup dreams. I talk about your dentisting core. I always say dentisting is full contact arts and crafts on people that don't want to be there, right?
Yeah,
it's not easy to be a dentist.
Not at all.
I believe in reincarnation, but maybe I want to sell cupcakes in my next life. I want people to just come in and say, here's $12 for a cupcake, Paul, thanks. So I believe that your dental core are your mind skills, your business skills,
Love it.
your clinical skills, most important, your word skills and your heart skills. And I believe, where do you feel dental school doesn't really get it right? Whether they're just telling people to do bicep curls all the time.
Yeah.
Where they're making kind of what I believe lopsided dentist. That's true. What would you do if you got a chance to be in dental school for a week to inspire students to kind of take a more, whether it's the 4 futures or their dental core, to improve?
Yeah, I think that there does need to be some adjustment or a little bit of different philosophy when it comes to putting the core curriculum together for dental school. And I've talked about this a lot. And hey, listen, I know that it's very difficult. It's a very finite amount of time to get a lot accomplished and a lot to learn. But I do believe that there's a lot of fat that we could trim, and we can inject a lot more useful life skills into the curriculum.
Because what I think is important, I just want to is, I did a general practice residency for 3 years at a hospital. Regular doctors have to do a residency.
Yeah.
And they follow around bigger, stronger doctors.
For sure.
You've owned multiple practices. You work with associates. They are literally pushed out of the dental school nest into the real world.
It's true.
That's my concern. And what I see every day as the dental nachos guy is that, oh, geez, Paul, now I'm in the real world.
Yeah.
I don't know how to talk to patients. I don't know how to discuss money. My clinical skills were inadequate. Nobody told me how to look at a contract. So whether it's the Four Futures or dental core, what would you infuse? What would you try to infuse if you trim the fat?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it right there. One of the most important things is the ability to build rapport and trust quickly. So that's all about communication, the ability to have a conversation. Believe it or not, dentists are not really great about having a good communication and building trust very quickly. So that would be probably the first thing that I would really focus on. Of course, I'm biased because I teach efficiency and profitability and practice management. So I think that is really, really undertaught, and there's a great opportunity for people to learn a lot more when they're getting out on how to run the basics of a small business. I mean, as a matter of fact, most dentists don't know how to read a P&L or a balance sheet or a cash flow statement and know the difference between the three of them, right? That is like Business 101. You should learn that the very first day of dental school, because still, over 78% of dentists own their own dental practice now. So if that's the case, then we're going to have to learn how to run them,
what
right?
What bothers me is I say, hey, we should teach dental students how to run the dental practice and learn how to exist in private practice or a DSO. And everyone goes, not everybody wants to do that. But most people do. You just said 78%. So why are we catering to the 22% when they're not learning that? Now, I made you the special shirt, Biceps and EBITDA, because I know you love both. I won't make you choose between them like your children. But I literally, while doing this, I just put on Facebook, hey, check out Mark Costas tonight. Are you concerned about your EBITDA? And a dentist who's 55 years old says, I don't even know what EBITDA is. So it's just a reflection of their challenges. So what is EBITDA? If you were talking to a dentist and they just said, what is EBITDA? You had 60 seconds. What would you tell them?
Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Basically, it is profitability within your dental practice minus all the things that go on a balance sheet, like long-term debt and taxes, etc. So it's basically down and dirty. It's the profitability of your business.
And I'll ask, or add, I've learned from you and your group, dentists are a little unaware. If you removed yourself from the practice, your practice might not be profitable at all, right?
Right.
Basically, dentists would say, I make $300,000 a year, but in some ways, is it accurate to say they've just bought themselves a job instead of a business? Tell our audience a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It's funny that people say that they want to own their own practice because they want to be their own boss, but the boss is actually the practice and their 1,200 patient base and the 6 people that work for them. So they don't have their own business. They don't have autonomy. What they have is a job. They've purchased themselves a very, very stressful, sometimes not very profitable job, and the income stops coming in unless you're actually doing all the dentistry. A real business means that if you extract yourself from the business, you still have enough dividends, enough profitability to live off of that business if you weren't, the chief cook and bottle washer.
I like that. Exact pun intended. I know you did not do a general practice residency, but you did remind me you did something. We did a lot of extractions early on, right?
Yeah.
Good at that.
I was really lucky. I had an externship while I was in dental school, and I was able to work in the community as a private practice dentist, as a student dentist. So I was a full-time dentist my whole senior year because I finished all of my clinical requirements as a junior. But not everybody gets to do that. So I had a residency while I was still in dental school.
And we'll wrap up with seeing your friends, the 70-pound weights over there in a minute, Mark. But you made me think of something. Doctors, medical students work in hospitals. And Rob Montgomery, my podcast partner and dental-focused attorney, law students work in a law office before they leave. So they get context, like Gary says, to what it is. But dental students, the first day they ever get to a private practice, maybe the first day they work there, where's that vulnerability or risk? Because they just have zero context. So when someone says, you got to do a crown prep in 30 minutes, it's got to be done at some XYZ office, private practice DSO, do you send this as like a real challenge for the newest dentist coming out?
Absolutely. I remember my very first day, they literally threw me into a Medicaid clinic without a supervising doctor. And they're like, here's your schedule today. And it was 16 patients. For me, that seemed like an impossibility when the most I'd ever seen in a day was 3 in dental school. Luckily, I had that externship while
That was magical for you because you're just like
huge.
And there's a real lack of supervision problem in dentistry. It's not the same way in medicine. I mean, there's a lot of problems in medicine, but when you go to a hospital, there's bigger, stronger doctors and there's younger doctors following around. And I mean, what's that? When you own multiple practices, did your associates get a lot of value from kind of literally probably rubbing shoulders in the office with bigger, stronger dentists?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, my model wasn't what it was towards the end. It definitely evolved. I had a lot of smaller single operator practices, so I literally would have to throw people in there. They always came to the flagship group first for a period of time, and they worked with senior docs and our clinical director. So they got trained up as best we could in a very short period of time, and then they went out into the field by themselves. I actually changed that model to a multiple provider model for every single location that I had. And I think it's really important for a lot of different reasons. It greatly increases the number of people that want to purchase your practice afterwards. Mainly the DSOs, private equity, is more attracted to multiple provider offices.
And I think it's like, you need to know, we'll walk over towards the weights, is that, is this normal? You need someone to know. Like when you're a new parent, you need an older parent to be like, is this normal? My baby's doing this.
Yeah.
And when you're in a dental office, so many things happen. And just turn to someone and be like, is this a normal thing? And we have multiple associates, and I've been on both sides of it, and it's just so comforting.
Right.
When you can go to someone who's bigger and stronger, more experienced, and just say, oh yeah, that's happened to me.
Yep.
I know how to handle that. So here, I brought you to your friend somewhere here. We'll do, I'll pick the one that's on brand for me. I like you do at least 2 bicep curls. You pick this one. I don't want to stress myself out here, so I'm going to shake this.
You do that.
Yellow, but yeah. But we'll get a compare. Good grab.
Do you need a spot? Are you good?
You grab one too. We'll do.
You led me to the heavy end, to the deep end of the pool here.
People, I don't know if you've ever used anything down here in this rack. All right, cool. All right, good. I remember when I was 16 years old, was it that all we did was bench press, bicep curls, and then go eat a lot of protein.
Yeah.
But how would your workouts transformed over time? You know.
Yeah.
Just pick up the heaviest weight in the gym and hurt yourself. You know, fitness is a big part of what you talk about.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how that's helped you as a dentist.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a great analogy, actually, because you have to change things up. You have to constantly learn and adapt and evolve, which is just like a business owner, right? When I was a college football player, we did Olympic style lifting, and it was, no more than 5 reps, and we were basically not looking to build physique or health, really, just strength and short bursts of a 3 to 6 second play over and over and over again. So that's what we were training for when I was playing college football. Totally different than longevity, thinking about being flexible and being able to play with your kids. So things change as you evolve as a human being. I don't do the same workouts that I did when I was a college football player as I do now. But I did hit kind of a ceiling of complexity, and I was doing the same workouts for several years, and I felt like I had plateaued. And so recently I went back to some different style of lifting.
Changing things up. I always say I had a great, one of my patients, Mark Dorio, gave a lecture years ago, and he talked about Andy Reid for the Eagles. So you know how long this was just. During the week, Andy Reid trains the players. During the game, he coaches them, right? It's a very different, you train so that you can have functional fitness. And, I think sometimes people lose sight of that, whether they're dentists, whether they're working out.
Good point.
What's the point of doing all this? It's so you can play this game. My trainer here, we talk about functional family fitness, right? You want to be able to do stuff with your kids. You want to be able to pick them up. I think it's important. And as we wrap up here, there's one thing I want to highlight. And I talk about this with my trainer because he can lift a lot of weights. He's into it. Like, gyms have such a great culture. If someone's bench pressing 95 pounds, someone who can bench press 300 runs over to help them and says, keep going, you could do it, right? Dentistry is far different. Right?
Yes.
Dentists have this Hunger Game mentality. So these big, strong people at gyms, they're always championing people to get a little fitter, right? They're not judging them. Why don't we have that in dentistry?
Yeah.
why do we have the Hunger Games mentality? Instead of someone running over and saying, you can do it too.
Yeah, I mean, that is a tough question because I am so anti that mentality, and it makes me scratch my head. And the reason that my companies have evolved the way that they have is to be as, counter to that whole mentality as possible. But I'm not really sure why that happens. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that we were not culturally appropriated correctly. So we were raised in silos. These are, dentists as a profession were people that were very, very academic and then very, very isolated from the beginning of their careers. So I just don't think they know how to play nice.
My thing is,
unfortunately,
you saw my 5-year-old. 0 to 4 is a major growth time for a human being, and 0 to 4 is the 4 years in dental school. And I believe dental school, I know, they make you compete over nonsense instead of collaborate.
That's true.
They say, who can do the most burpees in 30 seconds? We're going to judge you on it.
That's true.
And maybe you never did burpees before. And they also, burpees is not even a good example because that's actually a good, fairly good test of fitness. It would be like these exercises where you like wax up the central incisor. Who can memorize how the kidney works?
Yeah.
And then it makes people compete about it. And it just creates, I think, just this air of, I'm better than you, I feel insecure, and I believe it never leaves some dentists for decades. It's crazy sad. So we'll work together to champion everybody, whether you're bench pressing 95 pounds or curling 70 pounds like you look.
Yeah.
So the whole goal here, Mark, is I kind of want to showcase Philadelphia, what we do.
Yeah.
So I love the historic area of Philadelphia. Washington Square Park is one of my favorite places. I spent hours there at the pandemic. You want to know why? Embarrassingly, if you walk around the streets looking at your phone, you can run into people or get hurt, right? It's not a joke. But if you walk around a free park, you're kind of safe. It's like walking around a mall.
Yeah.
So actually, to share with you, I would actually go there because I knew I could walk and be on my phone and not, run into anything. But it also inspired me because it's where George Washington's statue is. It's where literally the founding fathers of this entire nation started everything here.
Yeah.
And I actually believe, I said, I've seen the play Hamilton many times. And on George Washington, it's like, he had to get all these people on the same page. It's like trying to get dentists on the same page.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this throughout the day because you're helping dentists bond together through consolidation, whether it's in the DSO space, whether it's people acquiring private practices. And that's crazy hard to do.
It's extremely hard to do. What happens is you have to dangle out the right bait, and the right people will come. And I can't save the whole profession. There's 187,000 practicing dentists in the United States. I'm not going to be able to save 187,000. But if I could save 0.001% of them, that's going to make my career very, very satisfying because I'm going to be surrounded by people that are of like mind and
I love
that are looking for that.
I talk all the time about the starfish story where the kids sees all these starfish washed up on the beach, just throwing them back. Some older guy says, you're never going to save them all. And he throws back one. He said, but I saved that one. And I think that's what, it chills as I talk about because I think that's what dentistry needs. I think both of us have talked about how depression's a problem. Suicide is a problem. We both know people just in the beginning of this year that's happened to. And it's not going to be solved. It's not going to be solved in one fell swoop, but making things a little less angry out there is a good idea.
Yeah.
Getting people to work side by side. And I think you put it right. It's like this is an opportunity for dentists to work together in a way they've never worked together before.
It's true.
And everybody, when was the shingle hanging up days? Everyone goes, I just hung out a shingle. You went to the shingle store, you put Dr. Smith DDF.
What even is a shingle? Did people used to write stuff on shingles?
I got my degree. Point me to the shingle place. And that's what we talk about. But I actually, you think we're a profession where we just have way too many solo practitioners. You don't see this in other professions the same way.
It's isolating.
That need to put together a football team. Like football. Like, we're not just like an accountant that has like someone who helps us with admin.
Yeah.
And then we work on our laptop the rest of the time.
Right.
We put together, everybody lined up. You get it's like the Oprah. You get a CBCT, you get a CBCT, you get a CBCT. And then anytime you can collaborate with that. And I think, as we wait for go to our next spot, do you find that some of the dentists, when they work together, even if they make less money, are happier?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. You need to commiserate. That our community-based approach, this DSI and DSN, it's completely based on that because it's such an isolating profession that when people surround themselves with other people, they recognize that they're not the only person that's experiencing this. And that is a revolutionary for so many people.
It's the new mom syndrome. I've lived with a new mom. I commiserate with her. I've never been a new mom. But when Mary went to those new mom groups, it was magical for her because they knew how it felt. So, and I believe that dentists have to always say, you got to keep your crying on the inside, you're smiling and sweating on the outside.
Yeah.
And unless you're a dentist inside that operatory, knowing that you have to do all the full contact arts and crafts and all the stuff going outside the operatory. One of the things as we walk out here, my dad said this to me, Mark, I wanted to quit dental school after my first year. Like, as I went to Villanova and I was really good at like sociology and psychology, and I had all these professors being, Paul, this is your calling, right? Like, you should do this. And then my first year of dental school, I hated the waxing up of the teeth. The book stuff came easy to me, but the other stuff didn't, right?
Yeah, the physical nature of it.
Yeah, I was like, Dad, I don't even know if this whole field is for me. And he was the greatest dad. He's like, you could do whatever you want, Paul. He's like, you want to drop out of dental school, no problem. If you want to keep doing it, he goes, I just want to remind you that you always wanted to be your own boss and be entrepreneurial in nature. And that's what made me sick. I'm glad that I stuck with it. But it's just like, it's so difficult for dentists to taste test dentistry before they're a dentist. Online, people go, if you love dentistry, you should do it, if it's your passion. I go, cool, when can you just practice drilling on it? Oh, that's illegal, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, I think, very difficult for this profession. And I think there's either people like me, I think, who I would have been happy doing like 20 professions. I'm very mentally flexible. When I talk about the P's of practice ownership, I talk about Pilates. Our friend Todd Fleischman does Pilates, and I talk about mental flexibility. If you can't be mentally flexible as a dentist, it's not the right career to do. Would you agree?
Totally true. Yeah.
And then I do think there's a subsegment who do wake up every day thrilled to do a root canal, but I think that's a small segment. And then there's other ones who try to figure it out along the way, but the more information they can get before they get to dental school about what the field feels like, I think it's great.
Yeah.
So next on our Philly tour tasting menu, came to where I live here, Mark. We got great coffee, great food.
Yeah.
We're going to go on the most historical places, Washington Square Park, just a few blocks away from here. So let's go.
Cool. Let's do it.
Awesome. I'll let you feel at home, Mark, about the Arizona heat right to you here.
It's a little bit more moist than Arizona.
I'm paying you back for I heard my team member stayed and hung out with you. I kind of wish I stayed another day in San Antonio. I think Morgan stayed and went to the pool.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's right.
Yes, thank you.
People always say they live life with deals and regrets, which is just a lot, right? I had a George Clooney haircut in college. My mom said it was stupid, and it was stupid. It was right. But like, one of my regrets is, and hopefully someone hears this, is that like, I wish I stayed one extra day every time I was a speaker at a CE event.
Yeah.
Because people go, oh, you're going to Nashville, isn't it fun? Well, like, I see the inside of the Omni, right? And then, you just, for some reason, dentists are crazy, me included. If I go back in time, I wish I took every Monday off after C course, and I just stayed on the Sunday and either enjoyed the city I was in. I actually regret it a lot. Like, I've been in a lot of cities where I have spent zero time doing anything in the city.
It's true.
Same thing for you.
Oh, it's so true. I'm getting a little bit better at that. Maybe half of the trips now I stay an extra day or come an extra day early. Yeah. But if you're doing a lot of heavy lifting during an event, sometimes it's better to stay after because you're a little anxious before you get your thing done.
Like, I mean, it's the test energy. It's that feeling in your stomach like there's a test happening. So we just had Super Dentist Boost. You were away, and it was one of our best ones. And I saw these great couples. Some dentist couples, like, they stayed till the Monday after. They went out to Sunday great dinners and stuff. And I was like, hey, I should have done that myself at Plixus, right?
Yeah, my best opportunity to do that is if the event is in a city that Leslie wants to be at. So she'll actually come in the day after I speak and just spend the day with me. Yeah,
because it's a good excuse to be there and do stuff. And it's that's I think great wisdom that mid-40s and early 50s guy can give the younger dentist.
Yeah, for sure.
Stay in extra. And also don't rush back. You don't have to start work at 8 a.m. on a Monday.
Yeah.
Like, even before I was a speaker and before I was a Dr. Nacho, I would go to the Hinman Dental Conference. I'll never forget, like, flying back on a Sunday being like, why did I schedule 8:30 a.m. for her, right?
I know. That's when past Paul hates present Paul.
Yeah, that's the ghost of that.
Or present Paul hates past Paul.
That movie with the Ebenezer Scrooge. Say take the day off. Also,
sure.
I've never, and you and I kindly annoyed dentists. You have my shirt on, kindly annoying dentists since 2017. Actually, way before that. We get people to sign up for. It's interesting. You and I built these online communities. Dental Nachos, the Success Network, but face to face is my favorite thing, and you get people. You try to get people to sign up for events. The dentists move like molasses. I say they move like my grandmother getting ready for brunch. But I love my grandmother. These dentists are annoying. I say, when have you taken off for a C event and ever been mad the morning that you were going? They go, never. I go, well, just plan it ahead, right?
Exactly.
Like they go, I can't miss a Monday from work. I'm like, you have 52 Mondays a year. You're going to be thrilled that day.
And, if you do it with enough advance notice, most dentists are working 3 or 4 days a week. Just work one Friday between now and 4 months from now when the event is happening,
One of your rising stars, and I'm glad to say his name, Dr. Christian Mullen.
Yeah.
So Dr. Christian Mullen is awesome and Job Connect client now. Last year, I said, hey, I believe in you so much. I want to give you a complimentary ticket to come see Dr. Jason Smister, one of the best dentists on earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, Paul, I can't do it. I just bought a practice, and I don't want to take that Monday off. I think the team will go mad. And I said, okay, how about this, right? Go to the team and say to them, we can do two things. We can take the Monday off and work Friday and not miss any hours, or we can just take the Monday off and have Monday off. Team, thrilled to take the Monday off. He came to the Smithson event, learned so much. He got a new website company in the process. But why do you think dentists have this odd rigidity about stuff like that? And he gets a pass because he's a new practice owner. But I see practice owners decades into it not being able to fit in a new good idea. Where do you think that comes from?
Think about when you had Daphne and the first time you left her ever.
Yeah.
You were so riddled with guilt because you were leaving your newborn or your baby for the very first time. I think that baby docs and new business owners get this guilt when you can't reason with them around it, right? It's
true.
like when I'm talking to new parents, it's like, well, you have your parents here, you have the nanny that watches them every single day, but you still have this guilt as if they're going to remember and resent you. I'm going to promise you that a 1-year-old will never remember that you left them for a 3-day CE event.
I want to interject. Dr. Erin Elliott, right? We both spoke at one of your dental success summits, and I was talking with her.
Yeah.
And she said something awesome because mom guilt, dad guilt is different. And she said, if I could go back in time, I wish I invested more in my training. I wish I took more time off. I could have used the break, and I bet you my family could use the break from me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with practices. Your team could use a break from Monday too. This is just, I think,
it's a good point.
what you said is right, though, about Daphne, because you have that same feeling with a newborn. But then it becomes more kind of unhealthy to have that feeling 20 years in the practice ownership.
Absolutely.
It's like what I'll call like a stuckification, right? Where it's like, I work every Thursday. I can't not work every Thursday. Why don't you change? I can't possibly change. And you were just talking about your gym workouts, and everybody who's good at anything, whether it's business, fitness, finances, they're always making adjustments. And you've talked about the CEs. Tell us about, the CE, what you call them, either zombies at some of these meetings where people say, where are my credits? I want to get out of there. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah, well, we attract a very particular type of energy and dentist to our live events. They're typically people that have listened to the podcast for a period of time. They're typically people that have a positive attitude and haven't been soured by the difficulties and challenges of dentistry. And in most cases, believe it or not, these are people that haven't siloed themselves and become bitter about what it is that we do every single day. And Mrs. Jones and her 19th denture sore and post-op sensitivity on Mr. Jones, and adjusting his occlusal amalgam for the 15th time. So that gets people down, but I really do think that the vast majority of dentistry, 50% of dentists surveyed wish that they would have selected a different profession.
Yeah, now tell me that. I think that's such an interesting stat that I don't see as all bad or all good.
Mm-hmm.
One, we talk about the gym is, I think there's an inability to taste test the career.
That's
right?
true.
And that's difficult.
You're right on it with that one, I
think the other side of it is, there's a chance that some of these people might not be happy with any career. Right, and that they might have kind of see, how do you see that, right? Where maybe someone comes to you, and I know you've transformed people's attitudes. Your Jack story about the dentist who was 75 at your New Jersey lecture asking for an associate position. What he said was, if I had come across someone like you, it gives me chills to say this, I've shown it so many times, that he didn't say I would have just had a better practice, I would have had a better life, right?
Yeah.
So when someone does come to you and say, I don't know if I picked the right career, but dentistry doesn't have a good return policy, what do you say to them?
Yeah, I have a couple different remedies for that. And first and foremost, I think that it's great to be able to advance your skill set. That's number one. Find something that you're passionate in, something within the profession that actually excites you. That's number one. Number two is, well, this blanket statement, I'm going to divert for the answer for a second here. The blanket statement that you just need to take more time off, you need to go on vacation. A lot of times vacation is not the answer, because you're more stressed out when you come back and you're stewing about all the things that are wrong when you're gone. So that's not necessarily the answer. I think if you're taking time off, you have to do it intentionally. So I really, really encourage to give more of it away. So if that means doing working at a homeless shelter dental clinic in your own hometown or an adjacent town, that's how I started my missionary work. Getting out of the country and doing missionary work on really deserving people that have no access to dental care, that saved me from burnout so many times. Because, Aaron Nicholas and I talk about this. He's the person that I went on my first international mission trip with to the Dominican Republic. And he's like, dude, when you get on that airplane, you're going to be sad because you're leaving them, and you realize that you actually got more positivity from the experience than the patients you're actually treating.
I love that. And I think it reminds you of your why. It reminds you of your why.
And the value that you have in your skill set.
Yes. And also, I work with all types of dentists like you. And if figuring out how to treatment plan your exit from dentistry fits with your happiness plan, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I have also found that paying rent and eating food and wearing clothes is very important. So people say, I want to stop being a dentist, Paul. What can I do? And I go, well, you haven't really developed any other skill sets that are useful to the world. So you're used to making, I'm just using for the purpose of conversation, $210,000 a year. Are you going to be cool making $45,000 a year working at a startup? And they go, no, I can't do that either. I go, well, maybe you need to figure out how to like your career better. And both Laura Brenner and recently an endodontist who returned her practice and went back to being an associate said, if there were Facebook communities back in 2010, I think I still might be a practice owner.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I have a different perspective too, because it took me 3 years to get into dental school, right? So while my colleagues that wanted to get into medicine, law, and dental were in the first shot, or at least, a handful of attempts, they went right into it, and they had no other perspective except for undergrad straight to dental school. And they don't have any idea what the rest of the world looks like. I was the guy that was out there for 3.5 years, 21 tries, 20 rejections, 1 acceptance, pushing my face against the glass, like, what's going on in this profession? I never took my degree or the profession for granted, because I was trying to make a living doing everything else.
Yeah, you said the taco truck, you learned more about business. What'd you sell? Sandwiches and Marlboros?
Yeah, carne asada burritos and Marlboro Lights, yeah.
And you learn more about dealing with people doing that than inside of dental school.
It's true.
And I think you had context for what's good. One thing I'll add, and I talk about this a lot, is the challenging part with dentistry is you have to deal with conflict a lot. And the conflict is patients don't want what you're selling. Patients don't want to be there. It's a very stressful environment. And I just believe if you do not have the right personality type for that, there's no real solution, right? And
that is true.
I think that's why if you're a pre-dental student, go observe in offices, but don't watch when the dentist just says, oh, Mrs. Smith is a great crown. Look what happens behind the scenes. I have pre-dental students observe me, Mark, and I say, I feel like sometimes they go, is something going wrong here? Like, why is there so much chaos behind the scenes? You go, this is just Tuesday. This is how Tuesday is every day.
Yeah, this is welcome to dentistry.
And like you met my amazing wife. I was a restaurant server. She would not have liked doing that at all. What didn't fit her personality type. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to identify the amount of conflict that you deal with your team and your patient and your finances. It takes us muscles to do it and just say, is this what I want to do? And that's why I think I would encourage the 60-year-old dentist to be a little more real, because what happens is, and I'll tell this story tonight, I'll be walking around Philadelphia, Mark, I'll drool on my shoulders. Some older couple will say, young man, those are the best days of your life. Cherish those days. Those are the best days of your life. And I say, oh, thank you. How old are your kids? They go, 40. I go, do you wish they were 4 again? They go, God, no. I go, what a weird way to describe the best time of your life. So these 57-year-old orthodontists, stop saying dentistry is perfect and be real with people.
Yeah.
Say, there's awesome opportunities to be financially secure and run your own business, and you pay for that, literally and figuratively. And you've talked about so many stories. I mean, this is you prior to figuring out that for you, you were making a lot of money, but not making a lot of happiness. Say that's accurate?
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Before I figured out that it wasn't just about the money aspect of things, and building a larger operation for the sake of building a larger operation. I mean, I had accomplished all of my financial goals and then some. Had a near nervous breakdown because there was just so much pressure to maintain this standard. And, you know, I was the bottleneck in the practice. I didn't have an organizational chart, so every one of my 50 employees was, you know, directly reaching out to me for every tiny little
no
problem.
question too small, right?
That's right. That's right. So I was the bottleneck. I held, you know, all 7 practices at the time on my shoulders, and I had to find another way.
I mean, that's where I'm glad to get. It's because multi-practice ownership is not for the proverbial faint of heart, right?
No, it really is.
Tell someone who wants to go from 1 to 2 practices, what's going to be their biggest adjustment? What do you think, whether it's mentally, whether it's financially, what's their biggest adjustment?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. People have this really interesting idea that with each practice, immediately you're gonna get a bump in personal income. You're actually gonna get a decrease in personal income with every practice that you pick up. And I had 16 dental practices, and I was making more take-home money when I had 2 practices than when I had 16.
Yes, that is the myth of multi-practice ownership. And also, I always say it's the shifting of responsibility. So people go, oh, good. Oh, you're lucky you don't have to do class 2 fillings anymore. Yeah, but I have to manage all of these things that you don't even think about.
That's right.
Other associate dentists, that's not easy. And the team members for the other associate dentists. So I think that's just such a key part for anyone thinking about multi-practice ownership, because they might see Louis Chen with his 12 practices and giant biceps like you, and they don't see what Louis Chen does behind the scenes. Yeah. Louis is amazing. He will share what he does behind the scenes, but whether it's Lincoln Harris, and Louis Chen's, and Elliott's, ask people what the cost is behind the scenes to do stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I say. What's the cost? Your free cost, your free time cost?
Exactly. And is there a way potentially that you can have it all? Is there a way that you can figure out how to navigate the challenges of multiple practice ownership, still be a great family person, and still make a whole lot of money? I think yes.
And I think, as you know, what you said, it's the opposite of what you were doing initially. It's to be able to delegate as much as possible.
Yep.
That is not on that someone else can do.
Yep.